Hey guys, welcome to Flight Test. My name is Alex. I got my buddy Austin here.
What's up, guys?
And today we got some DJI stuff, specifically the new DJI Goggles Racing Edition.
Yep.
It's a little bit of a mouthful, but they're actually pretty cool. They're a cool color, first off. And one of the big differences right off the bat is this is going to be catering to not only people who have DJI products like a Phantom or a Mavic, but also the hobbyists, people who have like a racing drone or they do FPV on wings, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that one of our biggest thoughts of the original DJI goggles was that they weren't quite as versatile as we would have hoped. One of the things that we've always joked about with the Mavic is that we wish that we could like tape the Mavic to like other aircraft to get the same video experience. Because the video experience with the Mavic is incredible when you're using the goggles.
Yes.
They're just perfectly designed for each other with the OcuSync technology.
Yeah.
But I think that DJI has been working on that for quite some time because they've released a couple of different products, the Racing Edition of the goggles and the DJI OcuSync Air System.
Yeah.
Which are both now available to buy, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, so the DJI Racing Edition goggles, the big difference between these and the original goggles, other than the color, is these have a 5.8 receiver as well as a 2.4, and that's kind of how the OcuSync technology works. But that being said, you can also use it with your 5.8 hobby grade drones and RC airplanes. So we've been testing these goggles out for the past, basically since they came out. We actually got one before they came out, and we've kind of been putting it through its paces, using it with the Mavic, using it with tiny whoops, using it with mini quads. It's gonna have more of a specific demographic that I think they're going for. And honestly, it's been a really good experience, I will say, compared to like our traditional Fat Shark goggles, which are more geared towards specifically the hobby enthusiasts.
Analog.
Yeah, the 5.8, it performs well, but I wouldn't say it's as good as my Fat Shark Dominators with a True D diversity module. That being said, the Dominators with that True D diversity are about the same price as the DJI goggles, so it depends on what you're looking for. Now, we have a friend of ours that has a Mavic. He is a tech savvy individual. He's like a tech guru, and he also recently has been getting into the hobby. He has an Inductrix FPV Plus, and when these came out, he freaked out. He's like, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. He's also a big VR enthusiast, and so for a guy like him, I think this is the demographic that DJI was going for. People who are very familiar with DJI products, but also looking to dabble a little bit more into the hobby realm as well.
Yeah, I think that the key word for these is versatility. So like Alex mentioned, they do 5.8, they do 2.4. You have the digital OcuSync system. And I think is what's really exciting about these is that you can use it with the Mavic. And if you click the link below, you can see our full goggles review that we did on these, and it's much more comprehensive. And so you have the versatility of being able to do the digital, and you also have the versatility of being able to do the analog. Something I think might be a little bit lost is like just how awesome this goggle experience was the Mavic. And so I think it's what's really exciting is that they've now opened this up for the Air system. And the Air system is essentially the digital video system that's in the Mavic, but they've broken it out of the Mavic and they've made it available to put on other systems. So I could definitely see applications to people putting this on their cinematography rigs. I could see applications for putting this on like a long range wing that has like maybe an hour or two of flight time, and you just have this incredible HD view this entire time. Because when you compare the Mavic, kind of like we talked in the previous video, and you have that incredible video link, but it's just on your phone. It's just not the same. And when you blow it up into a full, 2-panel HD goggles, it's just an incredible experience.
Yeah, so the big issues with the Mavic, when you're using it off your phone, which most people do, especially when you're out in direct sunlight, first off, it's impossible to see. It kills your battery. I honestly would get one flight out of a Mavic and it would drain my whole entire battery on my phone. Now, the nice thing about the goggles is they have about a 10,000 milliamp battery inside. I've never really had an issue with the goggle battery. It's not unlimited, but you can easily get a handful of flights on the Mavic on one charge of the goggle battery, which is pretty good.
Yeah, I think they say like a few hour use time, which is enough for like an airplane flight if you're watching a movie or something, which is a feature of these. Yeah. We've touched on some of the things that are different, but I think it's also important to talk about some of the things that are the same. So some of the things that are the same is the menu navigation. The touchpad on the side is awesome. You can be fully immersed in the experience, and you can have all your navigation for all your different flight modes and for all your different features that are within the menus. And it's really slick how you can just navigate through the different stuff while you're using it. The fit is very comparable. They did change the fit a little bit, I noticed. They also modified kind of like the seal that goes around your eye to eliminate light leak and that sort of thing. But in general, the form factor is pretty much the same. The weight and the size is pretty much the same. But again, the biggest difference that you guys are going to see is the versatility and what this can do.
Yeah, and as far as the form factor, in my personal opinion, these goggles, both the old ones and the new ones, They're probably some of the most comfortable video goggles that I wear. That's more of like a VR headset than it is like FPV goggles. And that's the form factor aside. Obviously your Fat Sharks are gonna be much smaller, easier to throw in your backpack. These things are pretty massive. But that being said, I have a huge head. It fits on my head great. It's not too front heavy as a lot of like VR goggles are. The support and the padding is really, really nice. One thing that you're also gonna get from the previous model to these new ones is just your standard OcuSync experience. So it's gonna be transmitting at HD, obviously, and you can do 1080 transmission at 30 frames a second and 720 at up to 60 frames a second. And when you're looking at that through the twin 5-inch screens, it is extremely immersive. You don't have to worry about the sunlight like I talked about earlier. For somebody who's trying to use this for cinematography, and I'm no expert by any means, but a lot of times, like when it comes to aerial cinematography, you'll have a dual operation. So in other words, somebody will be operating the movie camera, the big red epic weapon dragon thing, and then the other guy will be flying the copter. And now if somebody wanted to have a little bit more of an HD experience flying the copter so they have a better view, a little bit better range, the OcuSync would be good for a person like that. So speaking of the screens, it actually has two 5-inch screens that come in at 1920 by 1080 resolution. So combined, it's actually similar to that of like some of those ultra-wide gaming monitors that you're used to. And basically all that means is when you are looking through these two lenses with your two eyes, you don't really see any pixel distortion. So a lot of the other goggles that are the big LCD monitors, like the head plays, we also sell our flight test goggles, which are phenomenal for the price point of like, what are they, 129 bucks? With those ones, you have that Fresnel lens that kind of blows the screen up, and it makes for a very immersive experience, especially at that price point, but you do notice the little pixels. You can see pixels. With this, not so much. It's a you have two separate screens, one for each eye, so it's gonna be more like an HD experience. You're not gonna notice that pixelation from the magnification on the screens.
So with analog being a huge feature of this, just the standard 5.8 analog, you notice that it comes with a pagoda antenna. Let's talk about latency. So your latency of your average Fat Shark system is going to be 35, 40 milliseconds on average. At 480p, this is right at 50 milliseconds. And they say like, as you get down into those lower milliseconds, it's really undiscernible. I think 50 is kind of the cutoff where they say you can start discerning it, and maybe people that are professional racers and flying super fast, they can, you know, discern a little bit more latency than I would be able to. But it's fair to say that like when you're at the lower resolutions, there's really no discernible latency.
The other thing that we need to talk about is the range. Now that's one of the main things that made the Mavic so special when it came out, because it was one of the first products that had this OcuSync technology. And with the Mavic, you're able to go over 4 miles. Not always legally, you gotta be careful where you're flying, obviously, but the technology is capable of it, which is absolutely amazing. So you need to make sure that you're doing this legally within wherever you live. But that being said, with the new OcuSync transmitter, you're gonna get that same kind of range, which is pretty special.
Yeah, definitely that kind of range is incredibly useful for lots of applications outside of hobby. You know, if you're doing, you know, search and rescue, or if you're doing really like any kind of commercial application where you're, you know, evaluating power lines or whatever, having that range is absolutely critical. Yeah. But even from a hobbyist perspective, it's also about safety, because if you accidentally get a little bit further from yourself than you plan to, you still have your video connection, you can still evaluate where you are and get back safely. So I think that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of uses for throwing this particular system on lots of different things.
And we have actually had the opportunity to test this. We haven't gone the full 4+ miles, but I have pushed it out about 2.5 miles. And honestly, I probably should have had a little bit more faith in the technology. I was a nervous wreck, but the Mavic handled it like a champ. There wasn't even any breakup. I was still getting HD downlink on my phone. Obviously it was done over private property, but it does work. And I've seen videos of people who have pushed it even farther than that, to really push it to limits, going 5-6 miles, depending on where they are and where the noise floor is with all the different radio frequencies.
Yeah, so I think it's good to, you know, kind of talk about exactly what these are capable of and get into the specs and talk about you know, just the general features and just general specifications of the headset. But I think it's good to always go a little bit bigger and just say, generally, what kind of customer are these for? Who should be looking at buying these?
Yeah, well, we mentioned our good buddy Robert earlier. If he hasn't already, he's going to be buying some of these. Now, he is the guy who, he has a Mavic, he loves his Mavic, and he's been dabbling with flying an Inductrix FPV around the house. He's done some other small FPV FPV DIY projects and casual hobbyist stuff. And I think somebody like that who maybe got into it with a Mavic or a Phantom and now they're kind of branching off and trying like different FPV experiences, I think that's who it's going to be perfect for. Person who it's not for is somebody like TJ, who's got a Crossfire, he's got a high performance race drone, he's looking to fly, you know, a mile plus away on 5.8. In that case, not so much. And now the air system, you could argue you could put that on a long range quad or something like that, and that's definitely doable. It's not terribly heavy, but a lot of these racer guys and the hardcore hobbyists, they're looking to save as much weight as possible. And once you get this heavier OcuSync system on it with the multiple antennas, you are adding up there in weight. So it's not going to be for the racers, it's not going to be for the people who are trying to win competitions and stuff like that with FPV. It's going to be more for the casual hobbyist who's a tech enthusiast who wants that immersive experience. Also, that being said, I think another good person that this could be for is the aerial videographer. Somebody like Trent Palmer, who's flying Altas, he's flying big quads with red cinema cameras on it. If you're making your own custom rig and you want an FPV camera separate from your video camera to have an aerial view at something better than 5.8 and something with better range, big rig like that could easily carry this OcuSync system. So I think like somebody like that, it's gonna be great for.
Yeah, talking about like what kind of customer this goggle is for. So these goggles are compatible with the Mavic, with the Spark, with the Inspire 2, and with the Phantom 4. And I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot of forward compatibility with future DJI products as well. So I think that if you're buying a headset primarily to interact with one of those platforms, and you also want the ability to fly analog, such as if you have a tiny whoop, or if you're getting into FPV, like this is a great option because it can do both.
Yeah, especially considering the price of Fat Sharks. You're looking at, there's only like 2 or 3 Fat Shark models available right now, and the higher end ones, which is the Dominator HD V3s, those are looking at about a $500, $550 price point. So you're right at the same price point, and if you have if you're going to end up flying a Mavic or a Spark more, you might want to go with the goggles. One other thing that I should mention too is that one of my favorite things about these goggles is that they're wireless. So you can use it with the Mavic. You do not have to connect it to the controller. I know like previous Phantoms and stuff like that, you could use goggles. You could use like head plays, or you could use like an HD screen, but you had to run a clunky HDMI out the back into your goggle or into a separate monitor, which works, but this is just so nice. You pair it once and then you turn your transmitter on, you turn the Mavic on, you turn your goggles on, everything just works every single time, which is nice.
Yeah, that brings up a good note. Even though I said that, you know, there's a core class of DJI products this is compatible with, it does have HDMI in. So it's technically compatible with anything that has an HDMI out. So you can get that immersive experience even if you are dealing with a different product line than DJI.
Yeah, and you could even use it to watch movies on the plane too, which is pretty cool.
There you go.
If you could, this is your personal item though.
All right, so I think that the takeaway here is refinement. I think that DJI has definitely refined and has made their goggle platform more versatile with the SEs. We've kind of talked a little bit about who we think the potential customer for these are, but these are a really, really solid set of technology. And I'm excited to see DJI further to continue to support their great video platforms and those going on things that are not necessarily DJI products. I think there's a lot of value there. And that's kind of where DJI started, you know, with Lightbridge and with getting some of that technology out there. So it's nice to see them revisit that with technology as powerful as OcuSync. Like we're planning on putting this on fixed wing aircraft. We're gonna, you know, do a lot further testing. That's what we're about here. We're about testing it. We hope that this has been informative for you guys and that it helps you make a decision on your next goggle purchase.
Yeah, and if you're one of those guys that have a DJI Mavic and you use that mainly, but you're looking to branch into maybe some more hobby grade, some just fun products like a tiny whoop or something like that, this is gonna be a perfect product for you. And honestly, if it was me, obviously my situation is a little bit different because I work at Flite Test, but if I didn't and I was still just a casual hobbyist, honestly, I could probably see myself getting a set of DJI goggles because I do fly race drones and stuff like that, but I don't do any professional racing or anything like that. I try not to take it too seriously, but I do enjoy flying a Mavic. And honestly, I get more use out of a Mavic than I do the hobby stuff just because I'm into photography, I'm into video, I'm into stuff like that. So if that sounds like you, these might be a good set of goggles for you, especially considering the price point. You're getting the best of both worlds for about $549 compared to the top end FPV goggles are about that same price, and you don't get the OcuSync compatibility.
We want to thank you guys for watching. Check the link below for a playlist of all of our DJI reviews. You can flip through all of those. And we want to thank you for subscribing and for watching. We'll catch you next time.
See you guys. Articulation. Just say things and mean it. Pretend like you know what you're talking about.
Austin, what?
Got Buddha over here.
the